Hello everyone, welcome to a new session of chapter 11. This chapter is about organizing. Here you are going to learn basic elements of organizing. This organizing, if you remember, is related to your chapter 1 where you have seen the four functions of manager and organizing is one of them. So what is organizing? If you can remember the definition, organizing is about allocating the resources, allocating the people to achieve the organization. So here we are going to see how we can do some basic organizing within an organization. So for this first session, we are going to learn about key elements of organizing and the designing of jobs. So let's see. So first of all, key elements of organizing. So what is organizing? Is the way we decide to group our organizational activities, like how we are going to group your people, how you are going to group your functions, different activities within the organization. And within this organizing structure, this is the place, this is the elements that we are going to use to figure out how we are going to structure our organization. So it's about structuring your organization for the best purpose of your objective achievement, of your aim achievements. So organizing is part of the structuring your organization. Now, when we do organizing, we have to remember there are six functions or six factors that we keep in our mind when we organize our organization. And these are the six functions: designing jobs, grouping jobs, establishing relationships, coordination, distribution, and differentiating among positions. So these things we call them as a building blocks of organizing the organization. And among them, these three, the top three, designing jobs, grouping jobs, and establishing relationships, these three factors actually dictates your other activities. So therefore, we are going to emphasize on these three activities in this session. So let's see, starting with the designing jobs, what can we do here? Now, when we design our jobs, we have to remember that job design is based on the job itself, the worker responsibilities, the worker pattern, their specialization based on those factors. So let's understand those two terms first. So job design is the way of individual work related responsibilities are determined. So it's just like what you are going to do based on your specialization. And when we determine the responsibility, we focus on this term called specializations. So job design and job specialization, they are both connected. When you're designing your worker responsibilities, your employees activities, their functions, you have to focus on their specializations. It's not like that you are going to put someone who is special in IT and you are putting someone, that person, in branding. So therefore we have to make a separation among their specialization, and that is what we call specialization is the degree to which the overall task of the organization can be broken down and divided in smaller component parts. So it's all about breaking down the activities based on the specific specializations so that all the activities are grouped together perfectly and we can achieve our objectives effectively. So this is how the designing of jobs work. And as we have mentioned that there are some issues that we have to keep in mind when we design our jobs, and among them there are some benefits of course of making the jobs specialization, and there are of course some drawbacks, limitations as well. So let's look at them. So first of all, if you specialize your designing in terms of job designing, your employees, the workers, they become more proficient. Like as I've said, if you give an IT person, an IT expert, to his or her special area, he or she will be performing perfectly. But if you put them into different areas, he or she may not be proficient or effective. There is a less transfer time between the tasks, like one is performing the IT, one is performing the promotion, one is performing the accounts, one is performing the distribution logistics. So the transfer time is decreased. So one is done by one person, another is done by one person. So there is a less transfer of in terms of timing and in terms of activities. The narrow job definition allows specialized equipment. So this is what the main benefits of specializations. The narrow job definition. We are specializing, we are specifying, we are narrowing down everyone's activity into specific areas. So thus, as a result, everyone will get the benefits of doing their job perfectly. And the training costs are relatively low. Like you just need to train one person for one department, and then of course another person for another department. You don't need to train one person for five department, I mean five functions. So thus your training costs actually get low. Of course there are some drawbacks as well, which we need to consider as well when we design our jobs. When we keep your workers at a single place, single activities, it sometimes it can create dissatisfaction and boredom. Like you doing everyday jobs every time, all the time, same activities, that actually sometimes create boredom. So therefore that we have to look out for the alternatives, which we'll see very soon. And the anticipated benefits do not always occur. Of course, like the training cost thing, it may not always occur. For example, if you have employees who is an IT expert, but to train him or her regarding their job specialization, sometimes it may take longer time. Sometimes it may take higher amount of cost due to IT things. Also, some other departments, if we talk about accounts, branding, promotions, logistics, they also sometimes take more cost than you actually deserve. So that's for sometimes the benefits may not arrive. And managers should avoid extreme specializations. So this is not actually a drawback. This is the suggestions. This is what happens if you focus too much narrow. Like when we are narrowing down our activities, when we are narrowing down our specializations, we have to make sure that one is not getting too much narrow jobs. So therefore, you have to have a certain barriers before you narrowing down your jobs. You have to have a certain arrangement, certain factors before you actually make something called specializations. And this is what we are going to see how we can actually specialize and grouping our jobs. As I've said, to avoid some drawbacks, there are some alternatives to specializations which we can find out from here. So let's look at them. So job rotation is one of them, which means you are systematically moving employees from one job to another. So what happens is, since you know that your employees, they get boredom, they get bored or doing the same job every day. So what you do is sometimes you keep them moving from one department to another just to get some refreshment. So this is called job rotations, and it can increase the flexibility, of course, the lower the cost, which are still boring, and sometimes of course the satisfactors. Job enlargement, it can increase the total number of tasks. So since they will get bored, so you just increase their number of workloads, but of course you cannot increase that much. If you overload them, again they will lose their motivation. So it's a very complex and very delicate matter, since there are motivational issues here. So you can just add some more activities, then again you can bring them back to the regular activities. Then of course we have job enrichment, which we kind of job enlargement, but more than job enlargement, which is increase the number of tasks and control the worker has over the job. So it's like you are giving them more responsibilities plus the control. So both of the things, they can get more responsibility and they can utilize those responsibility to avoid their boredom. Then of course we have work teams. So instead of leaving them alone, you can make them part of the team so that they can work with each other, they can learn more with each other. There will be interrelated set of tasks so that they know what they are doing and how they are doing. So these are the things, it works better when the organization is really dynamic. So rather than leaving them just alone, you just make them part of a team so that they can work together with other employees. Then of course, one another approach that we have, which is the job characteristics approach. So this is based on the nature and the characteristics of the jobs. So here there are five dimensions which we can consider before we set our job specialization: skill variety, So number of things a person does, so there would be a different set of skills. Based on their skills, you can assign the tasks to them, the responsibilities to them. Task identity, the extent to which the worker does a complete or identifiable portion of the total job. So this is based on the task. So first one is the skills. Based on their skills, you're setting the task, and this is the task. So there is a matching here, skill and task. You can match the task with the skills and assign the responsibility to them. Then of course the task significance, if you think some tasks are more important than others, then you can assign those tasks to them. Autonomy is about controlling. You see the job enrichment, which suggests us we can give some controlling power to my workers so that they get their job done instead of getting bored. And finally, of course, we have something called feedback. It's like you are giving them their performance feedback, like how well the job is being performed. Is it going good? Is it going bad? So that they know what they are doing, how can they improve. So you're making some rooms, making some platforms for them so that they can enhance their skills, enhance their task activities, so that again that specialization of job doesn't get narrowed down and your employees don't get upset, don't get dissatisfied, and don't get bored. So this is how the job specialization works. After we know this, we can go ahead with our grouping, which you will see very soon in the next session, where we can structure our organization based on different factors. Thank you.